mayhem, scandal, tragedy. Edgar Berlanga and Shakur Stevenson, the shocking reveal for where they will be fighting, according to the latest sources in boxing. In this video, I am going to take you through this bizarre world where you guys get to find out where they're going to be fighting. To me, it sounds a bit weird. So make sure you like the video and stay tuned to the end. I'll definitely give my thoughts. Boxing reporter Dan Raphael says, per sources, while the venue is not official yet for July 12th, Berlanga versus Hamza Shiraz and Shakur Stevenson card versus Zapata will take place in New York, which we knew. There is a good chance it lands at Louis Armstrong Stadium, which is a 14,000 seater with a retractable roof at the National Tennis Center in Queens. Huh? What is Turkey doing? Now, at this point, we know Turkey likes to waste money. It is so official. From Crawford Madrimov to, Canelo Williams Skull, whatever they had to pay Canelo for that particular fight, and others. The Times Square card with no live gate, very foolish. And now they're talking about putting Edgar Berlanga versus Hamza Shiraz with Shakur Stevenson and put it in Queens in a basically a tennis venue. Arthur Ashe tennis venue, Louis Armstrong, whatever, right? Very, very weird decision. First of all, I said it from the beginning. You can have all the money in the world, but boxing is almost like a secret society where it's such a niche sport. You're going to end up wasting your resources or wasting money if you don't know what you're doing or you go about it wrong. I firmly believe that. That is definitely the case here because, first of all, I don't know how big of a card this is with Berlanga and Hamza Shiraz and Shakur Stevenson. Now, I personally don't hate the fight. I think they're cool. But you have to understand there's a difference between hardcore boxing fans and the diehard fans. I'm talking about watch everything, know exactly what's going on at any given moment. You show a picture of the boxer, they'll know exactly who each person is. That group is not that great in America, right? Or even globally, I guess you could say, right? It's probably like in America, probably 250K to 350,000 pretty diehard boxing fans that would be pretty knowledgeable on that. So with the card like this, even with David Morrell on it, I just don't know it has the star power to be put in like almost like a stadium. The other thing is Turkey is not from America, and it shows. And since he's the breadwinner and the guy with the money, I feel like a lot of people, they just let him be the dictator. And since he's financing so many of their shows and pretty much saving their brands, nobody's willing to tell him anything, and they kind of just let him rock. That's what I really feel is every idea he comes up with, they'll probably, like the promoters that work with him, they'll probably just shut up. They don't want to get cut off. They don't want their supply line cut off. And they'll be like, good job, Turkey. I like it. And just kind of ride with it. But at some point, I feel like somebody is going to step in like these things simply aren't working. First of all, you have Berlanga, who some would argue shouldn't be the main event, and it should be Shakur Stevenson. No one in America really even knows Hamza Shiraz at all. So that's your headliner. And again, you're putting it in a venue with 14 to 20,000 people because they had a wrestling match that configured it for like 19K, 20,000 seats. So I don't know if that even makes sense. Furthermore, let's say you think it is a big card. You got Berlanga out of Brooklyn, and you got Shakur out of Newark, New Jersey, which if you put it in the Barclay like regular fights, that seems to make more sense. I've been to several fights that I've covered at the Barclay Center, and it's always lit. And it's like, it's different from MSG even, because the Barclays is kind of more hip and a younger crowd versus MSG is maybe a little bit older crowd and stuff like that. So it's a different feel. I don't even know any fights that have taken place at this Louis Armstrong venue. So why take it to this location out of all, right? Like, it just seems weird, especially when Berlanga's from Brooklyn. So why not, if he's headlining, why not put the fight in Brooklyn where he's from, making it much easier? You know what I mean? And then Shakur's not too far from that, from New Jersey, pretty much the next state over. So to take it out to Queens, listen, bottom line, to catch a train from Barclay Center area, that downtown Brooklyn area, to go to Queens where this is at, you got to get on the train and like, it's probably like an hour 12 minute just to get there. You also have to think about your media. How many people live in New York that cover boxing, and seemingly they have no problem getting to MSG and Barclay Center and stuff because they show up and have coverage there. But who knows how hard it's going to be to cover this in Queens if it is in fact where it lands. It just seems like such a weird idea. Like, for example, if you're media and the fight's in at 10:30, then you go to a post-fight presser, that puts you to about 11, and then you got to take an hour train home to get back to Brooklyn. You know what I mean? You end up getting home at midnight trying to upload content and stuff like that. So all these like erratic decisions for what? Just to kind of be different. I'm old school. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I feel like Turkey is coming up with all these cockamamie, let's fight in the Street Fighter, Times Square, Fatal Fury, and let's fight at Alcatraz. And a lot of these stuff, these little don't make sense. It's just like you're going against the grain to be different and say, hey, I put a fight on at Times Square and nobody's done that before. Yeah, but other people haven't necessarily done that, but they've put on better cards. And ultimately, that's what you're going to be judged on. I don't think fans truly care if you put the fight in a jump house, if it's a fight that they like, you know what I mean? So that Times Square fight was an absolute dud. None of the fights delivered. So when you do these like spectacle fights, when they don't come across as received well, it just makes boxing look dumb. And that's exactly what happened. People are like, this was a bad look. Boxing looks dumb. This is why people are going to UFC. Then you're doing Canelo Crawford at Allegiant Stadium. Like, Turkey, it's like he just keeps trying to up the ante, and you're doing all this, but you still haven't produced any classics in America. And again, you're going against the grain. Like, you'll put Merab versus Sean O'Malley in the Sphere, and it wasn't a memorable card. UFC, they're going to Kansas, and they're going to Atlanta and Vegas and doing the regular Octagon shows, and people seem to enjoy those more than this supposed star-studded $20 million plus production in the Sphere. So, like I said, it just seems very wasteful and a waste of money. And a Berlanga Shakur card, people were literally walking out of Shakur's fight when he fought in his own hometown. So you make it more inconvenient to put it all the way out in Queens. And again, if you knew America, you would know that it's not one and the same. Like, New York is New York, New York. They got the 5 boroughs. So to me, if you're going to have Berlanga headline, like I said earlier, him being a Brooklynite, it kind of makes more sense to have him fight in Brooklyn. If not, probably have him fight at Madison Square Garden rather than this. But you guys let me know what you think.